Right, week number 5, we're getting there. We're almost halfway through the training. So, before we start today's session, I'd like you to just shake it out, shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Shake out any bad energy from the day. That's it. I should give yourself a nice big stretch. Put a smile on your face. It's Wednesday. It's almost the weekend. Right. So today's session, what are we going to be covering? We are going to be covering the art of fulfillment and breaking bad habits. Right. So you went over the 6 human needs. By a show of hands, who was there on Monday's session for the 6 human needs? Right, okay, a few of us were there. Amazing, beautiful, right? So hopefully you've all done the test. Let me know in the chat box, have you all got your top 2 needs? Or you can just give me a thumbs up, a real thumbs up. Does everyone have their top 2 needs, right? That test that we sent on the group, really important that you do that. Awesome, Jonah, beautiful. So right now, obviously it's very new. It's not making so much sense. But as we go deeper into the training and as you get more comfortable with these 6 human needs, you're really going to start seeing that these 6 human needs show up in every interaction, every decision. It's really quite interesting once you start understanding and getting comfortable with it. You know when someone's acting out, why they're doing that, right? They're trying to meet this need. When you're acting out, you understand why it is, right? So I want you to just start becoming more comfortable with the idea of which are your top 2 needs and how is that showing up in your life, right? These needs literally influence everything, how we think, how we behave, and they're often the underlying reason why we do what we need, why we do what we do. So when you understand them, it really helps you to understand what's driving a person, how to motivate a person, what influences them, right? And what needs to be adjusted to create more alignment and more fulfillment in their lives. So when a person is not meeting their needs, right, it usually shows up. And especially when they're not meeting their needs in a way that's in alignment with their values, with their goals, with who they're trying to be, their identity. And it shows up in emotional imbalances, right? It will show up in people feeling anxious or people feeling sad, people feeling overwhelmed, angry, right? I can tell it in a relationship, right? When there's a lot of anger, it's because there's a need that's not being met. Someone's significance or someone's loving connection is not being met, right? Harmful or toxic behaviors, right? Smoking, drinking, taking drugs, overwhelm, stress, right? This is trying to meet those needs. Even jealous behavior can come from the need of loving connection not being met. Right. So really, really interesting. The more we understand these, the easier it gets to figure out why people are doing what they're doing. Right. And as you get deep into psychology, you're going to start seeing that there's certain patterns, right? And maybe you've even noticed it already that you get lots of different people, and especially those of you that are living in a different country from where you are, where you were born or where you're from, or you go to another country, right? Because you see different people, and sometimes you see the same person representing themselves in a different form. Has that ever happened to you? Like you know someone, say you know Greg, and you know who Greg is and how Greg talks and how Greg behaves. And all of a sudden you go to the UK and you see Greg there and he's acting and behaving, but he's a different skin color, he's got a different accent, but it's Greg. Have you guys ever experienced that? You see the same person in a different form, and that's because patterns repeat themselves. So, although there's so many different people in the world, there's so many different problems, generally it always boils down to these 6 same patterns, the 6 human needs, right? So, if you're looking at your relationship, if you want to have a healthy and successful relationship, you need to be asking yourself, are you meeting your partner's needs? Do you firstly know what their needs are? Are their top needs variety and love and connection? And if those are their top 2 needs, and they're feeling bored all the time, maybe you need to be introducing some variety into the relationship. Why do people cheat? Right? Because they're looking for variety. But how can we bring variety into that same relationship? Right? If so, firstly, we need to know what are their top two needs. And then you need to ask yourself, are you meeting their needs? And how are they meeting your needs? Do you feel like you have commitments, certainty in your relationship? And if you or your partner is someone who's certainty driven, this is a massive thing for you, right? Do you have variety and excitement? Are you connecting deeply? Are you growing together, right? What would your partner say about how you meet each of their needs? And are they certain that you love them? Do you take their needs into consideration? Are they significant? Are they valuable? Are they important to you? Right? So these are the kind of questions we start asking. And this isn't only in romantic relationships, but it's also in friendships, in partnerships, and even a working environment. Right? You could ask yourself these same things about your career. And I always know because in the beginning, when we do the discovery session, someone comes in and they say, I feel like I'm stuck. I feel like I don't like my job. I love my job, but I'm just unhappy, right? I don't like where I'm at. I know what's missing. What do you think is missing? If someone loves their job, and I've had a coaching client like this, right? I had a CEO of a company that was an international medical company. He was earning so much money, he didn't know what to do with it. He started coaching to me, and this is a real life thing that happened, right? Was his complaint. And this take this from me, I was working a lot of hours that said, you know, I enjoy my job, but I barely work. I only work like 3 or 4 hours a day. And, I earn so much money, but I get so bored. I feel like half the day I go to the gym, then I go play golf, and I'm thinking of quitting. I'm like, excuse me? Your problem is that you're only working 3 or 4 hours. You're making so much money that you have to go play golf and go to the gym. Poor you, right? What was missing? Can anyone tell me in the chat box what was missing out of his life? And then I'll tell you a coaching strategy that we use to turn everything around. So he only works 3 or 4 hours. He makes a lot of money, doesn't have to spend a lot of hours, but very unhappy in the job, wants to quit. What was missing? Variety. Okay, maybe a little bit of variety, right? 3 hours working a day does, right? You got lots so much variety the rest of the day, but maybe variety, absolutely. Being valued could be one, absolutely. But for him, the thing that he was missing the most was growth. He didn't feel like he was growing. He didn't feel like he was developing. He's the CEO of the company, right? He can have as much variety in his day as he chooses. He gets to set the meetings. Maybe being valued absolutely could be an underlying factor there. So what did we do? We had a conversation. We figured this out. The way that he was communicating, it came out that he just wanted more. He wanted to do more. I'll explain this now, Aisha. Right? He wanted to do more. He wanted to be more, but he felt like he was just stagnant. He wasn't doing enough. Right? And then he spoke about before when he was in his earlier years and he was working 10 hours a day and he was constantly developing and constantly growing and constantly doing new things. Right? And I was like, okay. Then he got another job offer. So the crossroads was, do I take this new job? I'm going to be working 10 hours a day. He's like, but I don't want to work 10 hours a day. I'm tired of that life. Now, what do we do? Right. So we said, okay, well, is there another way that we can grow without taking this new position? Because you're comfortable with your job. You've got a really good job. You've got really good money, right? You can get variety the rest of your day. Go play golf. But how else can we grow? The next coaching session, he came and said, "You'd never imagine what happened. I had a meeting with the head office in the USA or the UK, wherever it was. He's like, I told them that I want to grow, I want to do more. They've given me this huge project. They said they were waiting for me to have more ambition and drive, and they've been wanting to give me this." And then what happened a couple of weeks later, we needed a coaching session to be more mindful, to be more present, because he was so overwhelmed. He had so much growing and so much things he was doing that he had so many things that he was battling to stay present, right? Isn't that the beautiful circle of life? So, right? So we can hear by the language usually. And to answer your question, Aisha, we can generally listen to the language that people are using. If I'm saying, okay, I'm unhappy in my job, I'm very bored, I'm very stagnant, right? Variety could be an element, but generally growth, remember, growth and contribution are the two driving factors that create fulfillment. And when you are growing, what's happening is you're getting a lot of variety. So, how do we meet the need for variety in the healthiest way? Is through growing, right? Through growing and expanding, we learn new things, we develop ourselves rather than looking variety in things like change, right? Because that's what he was doing. He was going and looking for variety in something different, a different job, different company. And that's what people do in relationships, right? They want variety. What do? They go to a different person. Very easy way out. Rather than staying where you're at and pushing yourself to grow and challenge yourself to be more, to give more, to do more. Okay, so how do we know someone has needs? You listen to the language that they're using. If they use a lot of language around excitement and variety and change, they're very variety driven. Right? If they use a lot of structure and routine and strategy, they're very certainty driven. If they speak a lot about connection and how can we connect and how can we be on the same path, and they're always speaking about other people rather than himself, they're love and connection driven. If I'm always speaking about how important I am, how much I succeeded, how much I've achieved, how much I have done, and how special I am, significance based, right? So Marwa says this is really relevant as growth is very important to me, and I always feel I can do more within my role. And Marwa, I picked that up from our very first session, right? I figured this was from the very first start. Rivian also another one of those, right? And that is why, to be honest, you guys are here because you are people who love growing. So people who are committed to growth, they feel very stagnant. They feel like they're wasting their time when they're somewhere and they're not growing, right? So then it's up to us to look and say, how can we grow more? How can we do more? Aisha said, can they focus on growing because they are lacking another need? So generally growth and contribution, and this is why these two needs are so powerful, is when we are meeting our need for growth and contribution, generally we meet all of the other needs in a healthy way. But what are you meaning specific? Aisha, if you want to unmute yourself for this question, what do you mean specifically here?
Like if someone is lacking, let's say the
Uh,
other
Rivian,
needs.
can you hear Aisha? You can.
Give me the charger, please, Mama.
Just give me 1 second, Aisha. I'm not hearing you.
And the electricity bill.
Okay. Try again.
Yes, can you hear me now? No?
No, I don't know why. I am not hearing you.
I could hear Aisha's
Can you guys
voice.
all hear Aisha? I'm the only one not hearing Aisha.
Can you hear me?
Rivian? No, I can't hear you either. Okay.
Oh, I need your charger.
Try and speak quickly.
You go charge in my room.
Okay. I can hear you now. Sorry,
So
Aisha, you can just let us know what that question was that you're meaning.
yes, but I mean that can it be like they're focusing on growing because they're lacking, like for example, the connection, the significance in their life, in their personal life, so they're focusing on something else?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely right. And it may not be seen as unhealthy, but because growth is such a beautiful need, right? But if you're growing so much and you're not actually actioning things, and if you're growing so much and you're not considering your other needs, then it's a bad thing. Even contribution, right? Contribution is a beautiful thing. Contributing beyond yourself to give to others. And this is an issue that I find it recurs in my family quite a lot, is that they love to contribute so much that they forget to take for themselves as well. They forget to prioritize themselves. They give everything, but then they're left with very little. Just let me know, can you hear me okay? Because I've taken out the mic, but is the volume still okay? The sound is still okay? Okay, beautiful. Right. So every single need has to be met. And whenever one need is focused on too much, it's a bad thing, right? Everything is a beautiful thing. It's a superpower. Like people pleasing, it's a superpower, right? It's beautiful. Being a giver, superpower, right? Beautiful. But when you do it too much, being planned, being organized, being prepared, beautiful thing. If you do it too much, it's a bad thing, right? So there always has to be a balance. Okay, beautiful. And then as a coach, you need to ask yourself, do you know your clients' top two needs? Are you helping them understand their needs? And are you helping them to meet their needs in a healthier way? Are you encouraging them to focus on growth and contribution? Are you encouraging them to figure out what's that top need and figuring out where can they meet it in a healthier way? Honestly, the amount of coaching clients that I've had that have wanted to end something, end a job, end a relationship, end whatever that is, just because they didn't have fulfillment in that area. And if they don't have fulfillment, it means that they're lacking in growth, contribution. That's it. Right. So rather than going and changing and ending everything and killing the cats, right, we look for how can we work on it to improve, right? Because what's going to happen if I leave a relationship because I feel that there's a lack of fulfillment, 5 years down the line in the next relationship, what's going to happen? The same thing, right? And that pattern is going to keep repeating itself till we figure out this is a pattern and it's a lack of a need rather than a problem in the situation. Okay, beautiful. So, in order to understand what creates fulfillment, we also have to look at the things that limit or lessen our fulfillment. So, what are the things that are draining and taking away from our fulfillment, right? So, the one side of it is what creates it, but the other side is what limits or lessens it. So the first one is engaging in unresourceful behaviors. So when I have an unmet need, I don't have a lot of variety. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go and eat all the food that I can, right? Or I'm going to go smoke a cigarette or take a drug. Or I'm going to go cheat on my partner. I'm going to go gamble, right? So it's an unresourceful behavior to meet a need that's not being met in a healthy way. Staying stagnant or stuck, if I have no ambition or energy to improve, this also limits or lessens my fulfillment. Disempowering emotions, feeling alone or having no community and support structure, especially when love and connection is high up on your needs list. If you feel alone or you have no community and you're very driven by love and connection, your fulfillment is going to be flat on the floor, right? Having unrealistic expectations and therefore never being proud of yourself or being able to acknowledge your personal achievements. Because if I always have my expectations here and I can never ever achieve success, I'm never ever going to feel like enough, right? So when I have unrealistic expectations, it just sets me up for disappointment. Constantly stressing about the future or dwelling about the past. And the final one is unhealthy habits and addictions, right, which is the theme of today's workshop. So how do we correct this? Number one, we ensure to meet our top needs and especially meet our need for growth and contribution. So throughout that test, you would have been given your top two needs. And if growth and contribution are at the top, that's beautiful. That's amazing. But for this sake, I want you to just put aside growth and contribution. And I want you to look at the four needs of the ego, right? Certainty, significance, love and connection, and uncertainty or variety. Out of these four, which are your top two? And how are you meeting these? Is it healthy or unhealthy? Right? So we want to ensure that we're meeting those top two needs in healthy ways. We want to make sure that we're constantly growing, make sure that we're constantly contributing beyond ourselves, so that we're continuously learning, we're setting goals, and we're evolving as individuals, right? If something is not growing, it is dying. And that's literally what it feels like. When you're not growing, when you're feeling stuck, you literally feel like you're dying. And when we're looking at helping others, right? And this is something that we see in a lot of coaches, right? Because every single one of you that are here, especially those that have joined as coaches, you came here because you have this inner desire to help others, right? This passion to help others. But we have to understand the difference between empowering and enabling. And this took me a long time to learn with my family, right? We've heard that saying, I don't know if you guys have ever heard that saying, you can either give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, or you can teach him how to fish and he'll eat for his life. And generally, as helpers, often what we do is we end up enabling, right? And there's a very fine line between enabling and empowering. As coaches, we want to empower other people to find that drive and that growth and that happiness and that success within themselves. And that's why we ask questions rather than telling people what to do, so that people can find that resourcefulness within themselves to find those solutions within themselves. If I am a mother and I'm always telling you how to think, telling you what to do, I'm doing everything for you, right? So you don't have to think. And a lot of parents do this, right? And they see it as a beautiful thing. I know Rory's mom even, right? She spoils him because she loves him so much. She'll do everything for him. But the problem comes in is if I do everything for you, and if I tell you everything that you have to do, you don't learn to think for yourself, right? So we have to learn to empower rather than enable. We learn how to fish rather than just giving fish, right? Rather than just giving money, rather than just giving this. We find a way to do it that we're actually teaching them how to do it themselves, right? So we always choose empowering over enabling. We create a vision for ourselves, right? So something fun, something exciting, something that's aligned to meaningful goals and aligned with your core values, and making sure that we're always progressing, right? Even little baby steps. Remember, progress over perfection. Next week, we discuss the formula for happiness, what creates happiness. And one of those things is progress, right? Not perfection, progress. Even if you're moving a little bit forward in the right direction, you will feel more happy. You will feel more fulfilled. You don't need to be there yet. Even when you're progressing, you already get that sense of feeling. The third step is taking care of physical health and well-being, right? This is through exercise, through movement, nutrition, rest, recovery, and maintaining mental well-being. So this could be using meditation, therapy, coaching, and if you find that someone always has low energy, and I know, right, as soon as I'm coaching someone and they're showing up and they've constantly got low energy, you have to analyze their habits that are related to their health, right? Low energy means that their health is out of balance, right? What needs to change with their nutrition? What needs to change with their movement? What needs to change with their rest, with their downtime, with their mental health, right? So, low energy, we relate it to physical health and well being, either mental or physical. Number four, we create an empowering community and support group, right? So, if you want to be fulfilled, you need to have a very powerful group, a powerful community who supports you. Somewhere where you have deep connections, you have that support, right? And if you don't find that you have this with your family, that's okay, right? You create this with yourself. You create your own family. You create a structure, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's a group, someone or something, a group that can support you, that can motivate you, that can encourage you, right? A romantic partner, or even connecting to a higher power, right? Some people find a sense of fulfillment through spiritual practices, right? Praying, having faith in the universe. The final two steps, we acknowledge our achievements. We take time to acknowledge even the small things that we do. Because if we're always just chasing without any acknowledgement or without any gratitude, we will never feel fulfilled. So we practice being present, grateful, and mindful, and we find joy and fulfillment in those everyday experiences, right? Not only the big things, but the small things, like having a cup of coffee first thing in the morning, right? Spending time with your partner, just sitting there, not saying anything, looking out at the sunrise or the sunset, right? And the more we start searching for the fulfillment in the little things, the more fulfilled our life tends to become, right? Fulfillment often comes from a combination of the factors, but it's a very deeply personal journey. And it's about discovering what brings you joy, what brings you meaning, purpose, and satisfaction. So, based on that, I want to ask you, what does fulfillment look like to you? So take a few moments to think and to write down, when do you feel most fulfilled? Think of everything that we've discussed, and what does fulfillment look like and feel like to you? Think of the last time you felt fulfilled. You felt that bliss. What was it from? What were you doing? Who were you with? And as soon as you've answered that, I want you now to take a moment to ask, which fulfillment drainers can you take action to avoid? What do you know drains your fulfillment? So when you're feeling low on energy, is it when you don't have a support system? Is it when you're not growing, you're not contributing, you're not meeting your need for variety or certainty? So which fulfillment drainers can you take action to avoid? And then in that same breath, what daily habits or actions do you need to take? What do you need to focus on to feel more fulfilled? You've got 2 minutes to write it out. When you're done, just give me a big thumbs up so I know you're done. Got you, Priya. Got you, Marwa. Got you, Jolna. Rivian, did you give a thumbs up or not yet? Okay, you gave. Okay. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to go over the next slide just to introduce the next section, and then we're going to go on a break. So, whenever a behavior meets three or more needs, it becomes an addiction, or it becomes something like a habit that you always want to do. Your brain starts to link up. Whenever I do this, I meet all these needs, I get massive rewards, so I'm going to keep doing it. So, in this next part, we're going to be discussing our addictions or habits, unhealthy habits. Just by a show of hands, is there anyone here who has a habit that they love to kick? Maybe it's eating bad, maybe it's playing on your phone, maybe it's playing too much with your cat. I'm joking, that's not a bad one. We keep that one, right? Anyone got a habit or an addiction, right? Watching too much TV, right? So, we need to now look at what creates the habits, right? Our habits determine our destiny, they determine our success. Our habits are those patterns that we follow. And the thing about a habit is it's got a strategy, right? And we love strategies because whenever something has a strategy, it's a plan that we can follow, makes it easier to understand it, makes it easier to shift it or change it. So every single habit that we have has three parts to it. There's the cue, there's the routine, and then there's the reward, right? And we're going to be digging into each of these. And once you understand the psychology behind a habit, once you understand the reasoning, why do you have this habit? Why do you have this addiction? What is it trying to meet? And very often it's related to our needs. It becomes a lot easier to replace this. And one thing that we really want to start encouraging in our thought patterns is that we don't necessarily stop a bad habit. Generally, we replace it with something healthier. But let's have a short break. It has just gone 36 minutes past now. So 36 minutes past 5 Doha time, 36 minutes past 4 South Africa time. Let's take a 10-minute break. So let's be back at like 4 minutes to 6. 5:46. Let's do that, not before. Okay, so 5:46. Let's meet back at 5:46. Shake it out, have some water, go to the bathroom, and then we're gonna meet back for the last of this. Okay, ladies, I see you in 10 minutes. Bye-bye. Okay, so we were speaking about habits, right? What creates a habit? What creates an addiction? And this is the cycle: cue, routine, reward. So the cue is the trigger that makes you want to do the behavior. This could be something external, like seeing an ad, seeing a chocolate, seeing something externally in your environment, a certain person, a certain thing. Or it could be internal, feeling stressed, feeling bored, feeling anxious, feeling overwhelmed, right? So either external or internal, a trigger, a cue. Then there's the routine. This is the action, the steps that you take to cope with the trigger. When I feel this trigger, I do X, Y, Z. Right. So this could be gambling, drinking, scrolling on your phone. Right. We do the routine because of the trigger. Right. So we feel the cue, we feel the trigger, we partake in the routine, the action of the habit. And then we get the reward. This is the payoff. This is that dopamine hit, the rush. This is that feeling that you get from doing the behavior. It may be a physical high, like a dopamine rush, an adrenaline rush, or an emotional relief, like forgetting your problems for a while. Right? Remember that the brain loves rewards. So it remembers whenever you have a reward, it remembers what that reward was, what gave it that reward, and then it reinforces the cycle by making you repeat that behavior over and over and over again. Right? So there's the cue, there's the trigger that makes you want to do the behavior. There's the routine, the action of the behavior, and then there's the reward, the payoff, the outcome of the behavior. Right. So if we want to look at it, it generally comes down to meaning. With most habits or addictions, we link massive pleasure to the behavior. So, for example, if I eat that chocolate, or if I smoke that cigarette, if I scroll on my phone, if I gamble, if I indulge in that behavior, it means pleasure. But if I change, it means pain, right? If I stop doing that, that's very painful. That's very hard. I can't do that. And people will always do whatever they can to move away from pain and closer to pleasure, right? So most people associate the behavior, the bad behavior, as pleasurable and changing to painful. But the thing is, we always have a choice of what things mean and what you choose to believe. You always have the ability to change the meaning if the one that you're currently using is not serving you, right? So if I want to lose weight, and I know in order to lose weight, I need to stop eating chocolates every single day, or I need to stop ordering pizzas 5 days of the week. But if I'm linking a massive amount of pleasure to eating these chocolates, a massive amount of pleasure to eating this pizza, and I'm linking pain to going without this chocolate or pleasure, chances are I'm never going to change. However, if I start linking pain to eating the chocolates, pain to eating the pleasure, to eating the pizza, pain to being overweight, and I start linking pleasure to the outcome, pleasure to the long-term result, I can start having more control over it, right? So if we have to go back to explain it further, and I'm going to just take us out of the picture here for a little while. If we have to go back to the NLP communication model, right, what we learned in the very beginning of the training, this is all related to habits as well, right? So based on so I have an event. This is the cue, right? This is the trigger, either external or internal. And based on my state, if I am feeling motivated or disciplined, maybe I won't engage, right? If my willpower is high. But if I'm feeling bored or anxious or overwhelmed, it's easier to engage in that behavior, right? So we have the cue. We create an internal representation. What does that cue mean to me? Does it mean it's something pleasurable? Does it mean it's something painful? What am I getting out of this? Right? And then I indulge in the action, and repeat it over and over and over becomes a habit. The more you repeat the cycle, the stronger the loop becomes, right? Okay, so that's just the understanding of how we create those habits, right? The understanding of how we create that loop. So in order to break any negative habit, in order to break any addiction, we have to understand this, right? We have to understand the psychology of how it is created. We have to also remember that we do not get rid of bad habits. We do not get rid of addictions. We replace them with healthier ones. So what then we have to look at is the routine changes, right? The cue generally stays the same. I'll always still have that trigger. I'll always still have that impulse, right? That's something that sets it off. That thing, I need to do this. I'll see the chocolate or I'll see the ad. I'll see my phone. But then what we want to do is we want to change the routine, right? And the reward generally stays the same as well. So let's try and put this in action to make it more simple, right? If the cue is I get home from work and I am feeling a sensation, I want to eat something sweet, right? This would be the cue, right? It's a pattern. I always come home from work, I sit on the couch, I want something, right? I need to figure out, why am I doing this? Is it because I'm bored? Is it because I'm hungry? Why am I having the cue? Right? Because now, if I know I'm bored, I get home, I eat something bad. It's because I'm bored. What else can I do? Right? What other routine can I engage in to conquer the boredom? Right? Where else can I get my variety? This is the need that's not being met, right? Maybe I can do a sport after work. Maybe I can do an activity. Maybe I can meet a friend, right? Maybe it's not because I'm bored. Maybe it's because I'm actually hungry, right? Then I could maybe eat something else. Instead of a chocolate, maybe I could eat a banana. Maybe I could eat a sandwich, a chicken sandwich, right? Maybe I could eat some chicken and rice, right? So I'm trying to figure out, why am I having this cue? What is the motivational driving factor behind that cue? So when I get that cue, why is it there? What other routine can I engage in to get the same reward, right? The reward would be excitement. The reward would be uh, food or hunger and being full, right? It would be, what else? Right. So if you want some ideas, maybe you can post on the group an idea of a habit that you'd like to break, right? If I am playing on my phone, because I know that's a common one, right? So if my reward is the dopamine rush that I get playing on my phone, I have to figure out, is it because I'm bored? Does it bring me comfort? Am I avoiding something else? Am I avoiding being sad? Am I avoiding being bored? Am I looking for excitement? Am I looking for comfort? So, what is that reward that I'm trying to get? And how else can I get that same reward? Right? The cue will generally be the same, and the reward will generally be the same. The routine, the habits, the addiction, that's what we want to change. Okay. So we'll go a little bit more in depth with how to break it, and hopefully it will make a little bit more sense. Right. So breaking the habit or breaking the loop, the very first step, whether this is you yourself or you with a client, you with a partner, the very first step is the person has to take responsibility and develop awareness around their habit or addiction. So the first step is admitting that it's actually a problem, right? Because if you don't feel like it's a problem, it's never going to change. So what we have to do is now link pain to this habit. It's painful. It's something I have to change. You have to be honest. You have to be truthful with yourself about the habit and how it's affecting you in all the areas of your life, right? We're going to do an activity all together after this. We're going to put it in practice, just so you know, right? But step number one is admitting the problem, taking responsibility, and deciding that there has to be a change. Step number 2, we become aware of the cue. Try to be conscious, when does that cue trigger? And you could even create a trigger journal. I get triggered to eat chocolate when I feel this. I get triggered to drink alcohol when I feel this. I get triggered to play on my phone when I feel this, right? And there might be a few times, because generally we'll be meeting a lot of needs with the same behavior, right? So figuring out where and when these cues are, we change the meaning or the response, right? This is working at the neural level. We change the response linked to this behavior. Instead of linking a massive pleasure to it, we try and link pain. Playing on my phone is painful. Eating this chocolate is painful. Gambling is painful. Being overweight is painful, right? Whatever it is that we want to change, the meaning point. Okay, right. So everything in life has a meaning, right? I should just let me know, were you there for the NLP communication model explanation, session number 2? You were there, right? So everything that we take in, we create a certain meaning, right? I could either create a meaning, eating chocolate is a good thing, it's a pleasurable thing, or it's a painful thing, depending on my goals, right? So let's try and just type it out as an example. So if I was overweight, right? And I'm speaking about very overweight. I'm not speaking about you're at the healthy weight and you want to stop eating chocolate because you think it's bad for you, but you're at the healthy weight. That's not painful enough, right? But if you're overweight and you have high cholesterol and you're on the verge of diabetes and you have children who need you to be around, right? So if this was the case and this person came to you and they said, okay, this is the problem. I'm overweight. I need to lose weight, but I can't stop eating chocolates. I love chocolates, right? I love the feeling it gives me. I love it. I love the taste of it, right? It's very pleasurable. I can't stop eating it, right? I can't stop. So let's just put this. I can't stop eating it. This will be so painful. I don't know how I'll be able to do it. I won't be able to break that habit. It sounds very hard, right? So can you see where their meaning is? They are creating a meaning of linking massive amount of pleasure to the behavior, massive amount of pain to changing. So behavior equals pleasurable and change equals painful. And I see this in fitness all the time, right? I can't start behavior. Okay, just excuse the spelling. Right? I see this in fitness all the time. People link so much pain to going to the gym, so much pleasure chilling on the couch, right? But when we change the meaning, we change what they're linking pain and pleasure to. Now we can say, okay, this chocolate, you said you need to lose weight, but of course you've got high cholesterol, you've got diabetes, you're on the verge of diabetes, and you've got children that you need to be around for. This chocolate is the cause of the diabetes. So every time you eat this chocolate, you are creating illness in your body, right? So we shift the association. Instead of this chocolate now being a pleasurable thing, this chocolate is what's causing the pain, because this chocolate is making you overweight. This chocolate is what's creating the diabetes, right? And then we change the meaning of the pain, right? If you can stop, or not just stop, right? But if you can limit eating this chocolate to one day of the week, And this day of the week is your reward, right? This day of the week is your reward for all of your hard work throughout the week. And so we limit eating chocolate, but the long-term vision, right? The long-term vision of losing the weight, how is that going to make you feel? Getting the cholesterol down, right? Managing your diabetes, managing your insulin, getting healthier so you have more energy. So you show them the pleasure in changing, right? When you change, look at everything that you will gain by changing this behavior. So we shift the association from changing as painful, changing as hard, and we show them the long-term change pleasure, right? But it has to be aligned with their goals. You can't just go to someone overweight and be like, you should stop eating chocolate because it's very painful, right? It has to be in alignment with what they want. And that's why I bring children into it, because sometimes people won't even change for themselves. But if they change to be healthier for their children, now we're speaking a different game, right? So we look at what are they linking pleasure to, and what are they linking pain to? And in order for them to achieve what they're trying to achieve, how can we change the meaning and shift the association of the pain and the pleasure? Because people will always do everything they can to avoid pain and everything they can to move towards pleasure. If you want to become a really good coach, you need to know what to direct your client to. And sometimes it's the pain, right? Sometimes we need to make them aware that their behavior is causing more pain than it is pleasure. And I'm going to show you the activity that we're going to be doing today, how to do that. Okay, so did that make sense, Aisha? Is that a better understanding on the meaning? Beautiful. Okay. Okay, so we shift what they're linking pain, what they're linking pleasure to. Instead of linking pleasure, we link massive pain to the behavior they're trying to change and pleasure to the outcome they're trying to achieve. We replace the habit with a healthier one. Once you figure out the cue, once you figure out the reward, you find a healthier routine and reward, right? So feeling proud, feeling calm, feeling connected. How can we gain what we're trying to achieve through a different behavior? And the final step, make it less accessible. Don't make it easy to engage or take part in the previous behavior. Try initially, especially, avoid the people who trigger the behavior, avoid the environments who trigger the behavior, avoid the cues that trigger the behavior. Get a support group to help you on track. If you know that chocolate's the problem, don't keep chocolate in the house, right? So try make it less accessible. If your habit is playing less on your phone, try not keep your phone around. Make it difficult for you to engage in that habit. All right, something really silly. I play this farming game, right? Usually it's only on holidays. I don't usually ever have the time out of holidays, but usually when we go back to South Africa, I'll play this farming game. It's kind of like Candy Crush, right? You farming, but then there's games within the games and lots of dopamine hits. And then whenever I come back to real life, to work, I'll find sometimes if I'm stressed or if I'm overwhelmed, what do? I start opening my phone looking for my farming game. So what do? Every time I come back to Qatar? I delete the app off my phone. And then I know when I'm bored, what do? I pick up my phone and I look through my schedule. I look through my to-do list rather than looking for that game. Okay, so make it less accessible. And the more frequently, the more consistently we partake in the new behavior, the faster these neurons create these new pathways. Remember when we were speaking about creating new pathways, new neural networks in the brain? The more we do it, the more often we do it, the more stronger those neural networks become, the easier it is to engage in the new habit. And the more emotions you attach to the habit or the behavior, the new one, the stronger the bond, right? So emotions create a much stronger bond. Every time you indulge in the previous behavior, you make it that much harder to change, right? So we try and avoid engaging in the previous behavior, if possible, completely, or we limit it to one day of the week, right? And remember that the brain is constantly trying to save energy. That's what the brain is trying to do all the time. It's trying to reserve energy, it's trying to save energy. And the decision-making part of our brain fatigues very quickly, right? That part of the brain, that prefrontal cortex, this tires out really quickly. So what it does is it shifts all that information, right, to that subconscious, that automatic part. So our habits become automated in order to reserve energy. So when you form a new habit, that prefrontal cortex, that's active, right? That's there. But once that habit is formed, the brain then offloads that, right, to the basal ganglia, the other part of the brain, in order to save energy. And that's how it becomes a habit. So in order to change that habit, we have to develop awareness, right? We have to be conscious of that shift. And then we repeat it over and over and over until it becomes a new habit. Okay. Okay, so team, sit up nice and tall, shake it out. We're going to do one short activity. It's not short, one quite in-depth activity. And this is the exact same activity that you would do with a client who's trying to break a habit or addiction. So I'm going to ask you as much as possible to try and immerse yourself to this experience. You've got access to these slides, right? So you've got all of these questions there when you need it for the future. But I want you to try and immerse yourself in this experience so that you can feel the feelings associated. And then when you're trying to coach, you can go back and look at these questions. And these are the same questions you would ask a client. Okay. So think of a habit or an addiction that you would like to break. So whatever it may be, write it down, right? Scrolling on the phone, eating bad food, watching too much TV, drinking, taking drugs, right? Whatever it is. And ask yourself, which needs are you meeting through this behavior? Are you meeting your need for certainty, for uncertainty, for variety, for connection? And if you don't know, you're welcome to ask at any stage any questions on the group if you're stuck or you don't know. So what is the need? Am I getting some variety? Am I getting certainty? Am I connecting with an item or an object? Right? Because it could be connection, the food, with my phone. And then once you have the needs that you're meeting, I want you to ask yourself, how is this behavior, how is this habit or addiction affecting your life? What is it taking away from you? How is it damaging your health, your relationships, your finances, your personal growth, your fulfillment? Could even be an emotion. It could be fear or anxiety or depression. It could be overeating or indulging, binge watching series, substance abuse. So how is this affecting you? Think of every single area, especially the ones that are important to you. Link as much pain as you can to that behavior. How is this behavior preventing you from achieving fulfillment? How is it preventing you from growing, from being more, from doing more, from giving more, from contributing? Being the best person, the best mother that you could be, best you that you could be. How's it taking away from your energy? How's it taking away from your happiness? And if you didn't change this behavior now, in the next 5 years or 10 years, this behavior got worse and worse and worse, and this addiction got worse and worse, and it took up even more from you, what would you lose? Do you know anyone else with the same addiction, with the same behavior? And where are they right now? What have they lost? If it's bad now, in 5 years or in 10 years, where are you going to be? How much more are you going to lose? And the longer we do it, the worse it gets, the more automatic it becomes. What pain will you experience? How will that feel to you? How will knowing that you've lost that, you've given up on that, it's gone. You look back and it's gone. How does that feel? It could have been so different. It should have been so different, but it wasn't. How will that feel? And imagine yourself 10 years in the future and you're still doing this and it's so much worse. What is that experience? What does that look like? What does that future look like to you? The dreams we gave up on. Why is it important? Why is it crucial for you to change this now? Why is it important that you change this now? Bearing in mind, the longer we do it, the harder it becomes to change, right? Bearing in mind, the more we do it, the more automatic it is. Why is it crucial that you change this now? Give me a thumbs up when you've answered all those questions, just so I know. Got you, Marwa. Got you, Aisha. And then ask yourself, what is more important? What could you be doing instead with all those wasted resources? If it's time, if it's money, if it's health, what else could you do if you had more of it? If you had more time, if you didn't spend your time on the phone or watching series or gambling with all your money, what could you do with those resources? What would be more important than this? And then ask yourself, if I did change, if I was able to break free from this habit, I break free from this addiction, and I gained all the strength and the confidence within me, and I was able to shift this around, what would my life be like then in the next 5 years, in the next 6 months, in the next year, in the next 10 years? How much more would I have? What would change in all the areas? How would it affect my relationships? How would it affect my career? How would it affect my energy and my health? What more would I have if I was able to actually change this? If I was able to break free, what more would I have? What would I gain? What pleasure would there be? Who would I become? And feel it. Feel yourself as if you made that change and you stopped that habit, you replaced it with something healthier, you replaced it with something better. Who would you be 5 years down the line? How would other people see you? How would that feel for you? And really try and feel it, try and associate that. Imagine what life would be like. And then finally, I want you to ask yourself, what action steps can I start with? Who can I ask for help and supporting me? How can I stay accountable? How can I create that cue trigger? And what ways can I meet those same needs, the ones that we discussed in the beginning, variety, contribution, certainty, the ones that are attached to that habit? How can I meet what I'm craving about that habit? How can I meet it in healthier ways? Right? What is that trigger? What is that craving I'm trying to achieve, get? And how can I do it in healthier ways? How can we create that new habit loop? It's the same cue, but there's a new behavior, right? And there's a similar, or even better reward. Just give me a nice big thumbs up when you're done so I know you're done. Okay, got your Rivian. So Aisha, Marwa, Jilna, just let me know when you're done with that. Got you, Jilna. Got you, Aisha. And team, remember that this is sometimes painful, right? This process is sometimes painful because we have to dig into the parts of ourselves that's not quite comfortable. And whenever we're linking pain to something, it can be really painful. But sometimes it's what we need to make the change, right? I had a coaching client once and she was depressed. Her entire life, she was depressed. And it became such a pattern that there was nothing even wrong and she was just depressed. And then what happened is she had two daughters. And when her daughter was 2 or 3 years old, they thought that the daughter was autistic because the daughter didn't play, the daughter didn't start speaking, the daughter was just not growing and not doing anything, not playing. And another 2 years down the line, it came up that the daughter wasn't actually autistic, but she was actually clinically depressed. At 4 years old, the daughter was depressed, right? So this coaching client of mine, she had never found a reason. She didn't even associate that it was her that was creating this within her daughter. But she was like, oh, it's obviously a pattern, right? It's obviously genetic. And yes, maybe there's some elements of it, but I believe that you are the image that your child is seeing. Right. And the client still came to me and she was depressed and she had no reason to get over the depression. She had taken medication for depression and it didn't help. And she had taken anxiety medications and she'd done all these treatments. But what we've came to figure out is that the depression was more of a pattern and a choice because she was meeting all of these needs, the need for certainty, the need for connection through her depression. And only when I made it very clear to her that the depression was causing depression in her daughters, right? And how painful is that? That's extremely painful, right? The fact that you are creating a depressive state for your child, right? And only after that, the first time her entire 35 years of existence, she found a deeper reason to change the depression. And it was a tough session, right? It was hard. She broke down. She was crying. She was, breaking down because when you feel that you've created that for your daughters, imagine how painful that must be. But sometimes we need that pain as the driving force to change. And sometimes it's not beautiful, right? And sometimes it's not happy. And that's the reality with coaching is it's not always going to be happiness, right? There are sometimes going to be tough conversations. There are sometimes going to be painful moments in order to get stronger and to make something different, right? So pain is not always a bad thing. Pain is a sign something needs to change. Okay, so team, give yourselves a nice big round of applause. Mashallah. Oh, big session today. Let us know, as always, what was your biggest win? Rivian, you are first on my screen. So if you don't mind, unmute yourself and let us know.
Well, I mean, I think right now is at the top of my my thoughts is just, you know, the kind of the story that you shared about how this parent was basically modeling the behavior to her child and how she picked up obviously the child picked up the observed the behavior and was taking on probably some of the characteristics and just how important. I mean, I'm a parent too, so just how important it is to try to model this whole healthy cycle of how do you break habits. I mean, I we all have habits. It's not that I'm perfect, but I think that I have an ability to identify what certain habits are, and once I identify them, I try to find ways to break them. And I think as I was going through the three parts and the steps, I did learn different ways of making sure that I can try to replace some of those little things that I probably need to change about myself and to make them healthier. But I do have to say that the story that you just told was something that was very kind of powerful to me, and how important it is to try to model healthy behavior for others as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rivian. And just out of interest sake, right? So when we started, at first she's like, but all I can think about every time I'm with my child is, what are they thinking? Are they being overwhelmed by my anxiety? How are they feeling? And then she started over analyzing. And as the child got a bit older, then the child became very self-conscious because she always felt like the mother was critically analyzing her. So it came down to a point of like, okay, when you're with your child, what is it that you're actually wanting to give her? Okay, you're wanting to give her confidence. You're wanting to give her like autonomy. You're wanting to empower her. What are the thoughts that you need to be having when you're with your child to produce these outcomes? Right? Rather than analyzing the child and being like, is she depressed? What's she doing? Why is she behaving like this? Like, okay, well, be present, be mindful, and how can we keep our thoughts okay? How we want her to be confident. Look how beautiful she's doing this. Look how, right? So it's shifting the thoughts to shift the outcome. Beautiful. Thank you, Rivian. Aisha.
So I would consider the whole course for me until now as a journey for myself, that I'm going deeper in myself. Today's session was really different because from the beginning you've been telling us about responsibility and take responsibility for your actions, and I've always blamed others. And I started to take responsibility with this course just to understand what causes others to do things for me, like why at the beginning. And I was trying to gather the puzzles part together, but today it's kind of, I find exactly what causes most of the problems. I know it is related to other people, so I'm not sure if they can change, but at least I can understand what's my part in this problem. So today's session was totally amazing for me. Thank you very much.
That's amazing, Aisha. I'm so happy to hear, right? And we definitely can't change others, but we can influence and we can change how we feel about what they think. Right? We can change our perception about them, although we can't change them. We can change our perception, we can change how they affect us, and we can just try and influence as best as we can. And that's all that we can do.
Totally.
Beautiful. Okay. I think next week will be quite a good session as well. It's quite an empowering one. It's all about like beliefs as well. It's a really, really good one. So if hopefully you can make it for next week's session, it's a really good one. Marwa, are you there, Marwa?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So for me, the biggest one is digging deep to know the reason why I'm addicted to the bad habit that I have, which is scrolling on phone. So when I was writing and reflecting on the things that like why I am doing this, I found that there are many reasons. And when I also was writing, answering the question, what I am losing and what I'm gaining, I found that if I'm gonna do the same thing, I'll be losing a lot, obviously, and I'll be gaining also a lot if I'll stop this. So this is a very was a powerful question, and also changing the meaning. It's really powerful strategy to quit and to start developing and creating good habits.
Beautiful. Thank you, Marwa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ah,
That was really nice class. Thank you.
it was helpful, right?
Yeah.
Inshallah. I'm happy to hear, Marwa. Thank you. Jilna, let us know what was your biggest win?
Hi, good evening to all. So for me, the thing which really got clicked is like shift the thoughts, shift the outcome. Like my childhood, I say that like my mom was a depressed person. From
Mm,
the maybe from the age of 31, she was in like deep depression. Okay, she was under medication, and even now she's under medication. So, to see your somebody close to you, this situation, and that is something like rooted inside you, right? Like me being a mother, sometimes when I get anxiety or something, which when like a negative thought comes to me, I feel like, am I turning to be like my mother? Does it gonna have an effective
mm,
impact on my kids? But then like I used to like shift my thoughts, like, no, I'm not like her, like, I don't want to be like that. And now like scientifically learning how to do this, how to change your mind, shift your thoughts, it's something very grateful, and I'm very thankful to you. It's really, really taking me. I can relate with everything, every examples. I'm so thankful to you from my heart. Thank you.
it's a pleasure, Jilna. I'm so, so happy to hear that. Hey, ladies, give yourselves a big round of applause. You made it through week 5. We still, for those of you that are on training, you still have 3 powerful weeks, right? Next week, we're diving into the formula for happiness. It's a really, really, really powerful week. It's, to me, probably one of the most powerful weeks. After that, we're going through a state management. So, how do we actually manage our state? How do we shift that emotion scientifically, step by step? For those of you that are going for the full coach training, you still have quite a lot of weeks. We still have 7 weeks together. So, then that's also learning all the coaching skills and tools about that. So, ladies, very, very, very well done. It's been such a pleasure having you here with me tonight. And I hope that you have a lovely, lovely weekend. Who came on a 6? Aisha, you came on a 6. I hope it's a little bit higher, right? Maybe after the heavy session, not, but hopefully it's a little bit higher. Okay, ladies, have a lovely, lovely day, a lovely weekend. It's okay. I'll take it. Progress over perfection, right? That's perfect. 8 is banging. Bye bye, ladies. Thank you so much. See you next week. Bye.